Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Justin Carbone. I'm the match director for the upcoming Midwest Precision Gas Gun match that'll be held at Gopher Rifle and Revolver Club in Harris, Minnesota. And the match is on August 2nd, 2026. I know a lot of people that'll be at the match are newer to this, so I figured I would cover a lot of frequently asked questions here on a video that you guys could all watch. And then you could show up to the match feeling a lot more confident with what you have with your gear, your understanding of all the procedures and safety rules, so that you can compete in the match and have a good time doing what the match is testing, as opposed to trying to learn new things at the same time. So I've got a list here. I'm going to cover some frequently asked questions here. So basically, what is a precision gas gun match? So it's very similar to the PRS style of shooting. If you're familiar with that, you'll be in really good shape. This is with semi-autos, so that's a difference. And then the biggest difference is we're using time plus scoring. So what that means is all the stages are hit to move, and the number of seconds it takes you to hit all the targets and complete the stage, the number of seconds is your score. So the lower your score, the better. Your score at the end of the entire match is simply the score in all the individual stages added together. In addition to the time it takes you to complete the stage, there will be potentially penalties added to your score. So most commonly that's for like a missed target. So let's say you shot through a stage and you didn't quite finish the stage, you left one target that you did not hit, then you would have a score of 90 seconds, which is the par time. I didn't tell you that yet. All stages have a 90-second time limit. So if you went through a stage and you didn't finish, you would have 90 seconds plus one penalty for one target that you did not hit, which is 15 seconds per penalty. So then your score would be 105. There is no limit to the round count on these stages. And I think that's it for the time plus scoring. So yeah, it's a little different pace than PRS. Everything else is the same though. So you're going to be getting into squads. You're going to be going to your next stage, getting a stage brief. You'll have all the targets identified. You'll have the opportunity to range the targets, to mentally rehearse the stage in your head. But then when it's your turn to shoot, instead of doing everything possible to try to not miss anything like they do in PRS, you'll be trying to find a balance between going fast, because that is your score is literally your time, your speed, but yet not too fast. So it's really fun to try to find that balance. It's something totally different. I shot one of these matches in Utah last month and I had a blast. It's a different change of pace, and yeah, it's just fun. So I hope you guys have a good time too. All right, next question. What type of gear do I need? So you want to bring eye and ear protection. It's not required, but highly recommended. For ears, I would bring plugs and muffs. So about that a little bit. So we're not requiring suppressors here, but a lot of people will have suppressors. I look forward to the point at which the sport is all suppressors, and then people can kind of either wear, like just light ear protection, like just the plugs, and you don't have a situation where 90% of the people are running suppressors, so you might not be muffed up and then all of a sudden someone with a muzzle brake comes next to you and blasts you. So that's why you'd want to bring plugs and muffs. The safest thing to do is just wear them both all day, but that's kind of up to you. Alright, so Eye and Ear Pro is the first thing. Second thing, a chamber flag. So what that looks like is this. It is a device that goes into your chamber. So we're going to be using this style of chamber flag, meaning it goes in the chamber. It just proves that there's not a round in the gun, is what that does. There are other types of flags, like magazine block flags. Those will prove that there's not a magazine in the gun. They'll also prove that the bolt is back, but they don't prove that there's not a round in the chamber. So we're going with these. If you don't have one, I'll have extras and I'll provide one for you. The morning of the match, we're going to go over this again. We're going to go over the safety procedures and how these will be used. And we're actually going to be using them like legitimately, so you need to keep it in your gun when you're not shooting. Otherwise the penalty is a match DQ. I'm not trying to DQ anybody, just trying to keep it safe. But yeah, so a chamber flag is the second thing you'll need. Third thing, a gas gun capable of 1.5 MOA dispersion, which is roughly 1.5 inches at 100 yards. A lot of the ARs that are around today can do that. Most of them can. If you have a more accurate one than that, more power to you. Next, 200 to 300 rounds of match grade ammunition. So the furthest distance we'll be shooting at is like 600, 6.25. So it doesn't need to be super accurate ammunition, but you know, better ammo is going to be a little bit easier on you. A scope, an LPVO, which is a low powered variable optic, or an open gun could have any scope. So just bring what you have. If you shoot PRS or NRL 22 and you already have a scope, you could just bump that over to your AR and just come and have a good time using that. Next, you'll need to have a good zero on your gun. I like a 100-yard zero, but any zero you want to use works. As long as you have that in your ballistic solver, you'll be able to come out and shoot the match no problem. A bipod, a support bag, and 20-round magazines. So if you have those basic things, you'll be able to come out and play and have a good time. Oh, I do have a question. What are the safety rules? All right, so we'll go over that real quick. So this will be a cold range, meaning your weapon must be cold unless instructed to load and make ready by a range officer. So a cold weapon has two criteria to meet the definition of a cold weapon. So it looks like this. It's no magazine inserted, and then it has a chamber flag in. Those two things mean this is a cold weapon. Bolt can be either held back or resting against the chamber flag. That is up to you. It doesn't matter. This is still considered an open bolt. It's not locked shut. Alright, so a gun that does not meet both of those criteria is considered hot. A violation of the cold range rule is an immediate disqualification from the match. So here's an exception. There's going to be a thing called the safety line. So that'll be a dedicated, indicated spot on the firing line where at any time you may go to the safety line without approval and you may remove your chamber flag. So this would be, let's say you wanted to lube the gun, or you wanted to take the rear takedown pin out and open the gun up. Well, the gun won't open because the bolt is partially back because the chamber flag's in there. So you could go over to the safety line and then remove your chamber flag, take the gun apart, close it, cycle it, dry fire, look through the gun, do whatever you want, work on the gun, work on your trigger, troubleshoot problems. So that is for you. The one thing you cannot do at the safety line is have any ammunition in your hands. So it's very similar to USPSA. They have a safety table, the exact same premise. No ammunition at the safety line. That would be a match DQ. Let's see what else you got here. You can have empty magazines at the safety line. Like if you wanted to do mag function checks, make sure the gun's locking back with your magazine or whatever. An empty magazine does not constitute ammunition, but loose ammo is considered ammo, so no loading magazines there or unloading magazines there. A loaded magazine in your hand, that's ammunition at the safety line. The next rule is about skyloading. So what this pertains to is when you cycle your action, or you basically, when you load that gun, when that bolt comes forward and a round is going into the chamber and slamming and locking shut, there is a chance that the gun could go off in that instance. So that's why all these sports have rules about skyloading. So what they want is they want you aiming at the target before the bolt goes forward. So when you start your stage, you're going to have, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but when you start your stage, you're going to have a magazine in with this chamber flag out and in your pocket, and your bolt will be locked to the rear. That's your starting configuration. So when you hear the beep and then you start your stage, you engage, you're going to build your first position, find your target in the scope, and then you're going to release the bolt. Hopefully you have an ambi, otherwise you're going to have to come on this left side to release the bolt. But you're going to do that on the target, and then you'll fire at that target until you impact it. You'll hear hit, And then if it's time to move and break position to go to the next spot, the first thing you're going to do is going to go back onto safe with your safety, and you're going to call safe, and then you can move to the next spot. This sounds like a lot right now. We're going to cover this in a little bit here. I'm going to head over to the firing line. I'm going to do some practice stages for you. I'm going to go over all this again just so that you kind of understand the sequence, and you can actually practice this at home so that you have a couple good reps under your belt before you show up. But that's basically what skyloading is. A violation for skyloading, because there's kind of a lot to keep mind of, is the first violation is a warning. The second violation is 1 penalty, which is 15 seconds. The third violation is a stage DQ, which means your score would be 90 seconds plus max penalties. So if it's a 10-hit stage, it would be 90 plus 150. So that's quite a big score, so you don't want to do that. So get in the habit of not skyloading, working the safety before movements. All right, next. So there will be a muzzle boundary. So what that means is, let's say here's the shooting position. Let's say there's a ladder here or something, and the targets are down there. There's going to be a defined flag on the right, approximately, just call it 45 degrees to the right, and another flag about 45 degrees to the left. So when you're on that stage, your muzzle needs to be within that 90-degree span of fire. USPSA has the 180 rule. Well, this is roughly half that, a 90 rule. And the reason that it's so restrictive is because we're sharing a firing line. There's literally people, 10 yards to the right of us, so we can't go a full 180. We need to do more restrictive. And you don't need to be moving your muzzle to the side either. The targets are way down there, right? So when you go into the ladder and you come out, that's what the gun looks like. It doesn't need to look like this to be moving positions, right? Same thing with going up. It doesn't need to look like this to move. You come out, you can leave the gun like this. I mean, heck, I can walk all around the sides of the gun and it still hasn't broke the 90. So we're going to be using that. It's pretty important when a lot of people are sharing a firing line. The penalty for breaking the muzzle boundary is a match DQ. Negligent discharge and accidental discharge. These are two different things, very similar. Negligent is when the gun goes off when you accidentally bump the trigger. It was an operator error situation. That's a match DQ. That's standard in all these types of sports. And then the accidental discharge, the difference is that's like a malfunction of the equipment. So your trigger basically was set too light or something, and when the gun slammed forward, the gun went off. That's called an AD, accidental discharge. So the penalty for that is a stage DQ, which is that max time plus max penalties. But the good news is you're not out of the match if that happens. You can go over to the safety line, work on your gun, get it adjusted, and come back in. Hopefully you got it fixed, because if it happens again, that's 2 times, so that would be a match DQ. All right, yeah, the safety stuff feels like a lot. It feels like a lot of rules. We're not trying to get people out of the match. Hopefully there's no DQs. We're just trying to keep the match safe so that everyone can go home feeling good and having a good day. Next question, what are the range commands? So when you're called up to the line, you're gonna have your gun in hand, and your gun will be configured like this, because you haven't been given any commands yet, right? They'll just call your name, say, hey Justin, you're next, come on up. I'll step up, and the range officer will say, do you understand the course of fire? If I say yes, they'll say, all right, load and make ready. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lock the bolt to the rear, take the chamber flag out, put it in the pocket, and then insert a magazine. Those 3 things. Safety's still on, bolt's still back. Now the next range command is the shooter ready? If you say yes, their next command is stand by, and then you're going to wait for a beep. They're going to have a timer in their hand, it's going to beep, and that's when you start your stage. You're going to build your first position on the ladder, find the target, drop the bolt, So I'm going to go like this. There's the target. Drop the bolt. Switch the safety to fire. Shoot. Hit. And then I'm going to go to safe. And I'm going to call safe. Safe! And then I'm going to move to the next spot on the ladder. Find the next target. There it is. Go to fire. And then I'm going to shoot. And when I hear hit, I'm going to go back to safe and say safe. And move and so on. When you're done shooting, the next command is going to be unload and show clear. That's when you take your magazine out, put it in your pocket or your mag pouch, lock the bolt to the rear, put the chamber flag in. Then the RO is going to say the line is safe. And then you now have a cold gun and you can go bring the gun back and set it down where people are staging rifles. All right, the next question, what else should I bring? Feel free to bring snacks. We're actually going to be providing snacks and a light lunch as well as cold water. So you could literally show up with no food and you're probably going to be fine. Unless you have, you know, your own type of snack that you like to eat during a day like this. Bring electrolytes, it might be hot. You could just dump those into the water that we're already providing and you should be good to go there. Next question, when do we arrive and where do we go? So, meet at the 300-yard line. There'll be signs. So again, Gopher Rifle and Revolver Club up in Harris, Minnesota. You drive in, just follow the signs. There'll be signs marked to where to go. We're all going to be starting on the 300-yard line and shooting roughly half the match because this is a KD, a known distance range. There's only one impact berm area, so all the targets will be in the same area, and we'll just be 300 yards back from that. We'll shoot roughly half the match, and then we'll all come back to like the 600-yard line, and we'll be shooting the second half of the match at that firing line. What time to show up? That's TBD. I'm going to be sending out emails, so watch for emails on when to arrive, and then anything I don't cover in this video, I'll also put in those emails. Hey, what's up, guys? The last time I was talking to you was about a week ago. I wanted to finish up the videos that day with some practice stages. I didn't get time, so I'm doing those tonight. So what I wanted to do here is show you a couple practice stages that you could use at home. You don't even need to be at the range, and the idea is just to get you some repetitions under your belt for the safety process, you know, with the chamber flag, how to load your gun and make ready, how to safely point your gun downrange, and how to manipulate the safety as you're going through a stage. So for the first practice stage, I assume everybody has a ladder at home. I'm going to be using this NRL 22 pyramid style prop, but it's very similar to a ladder. We have a rung every 12 inches, and we're just going to be moving up and down the barricade on a practice stage. So what you'll need at home is have your gun in the configuration you're going to be using at the match, have a chamber flag, and then a magazine. We're going to be inserting it. I'll just use an empty magazine. And then you'll need your support bag for this drill here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find an object downrange that I can aim at. This could be, you know, a target on your wall, you know, something really small. I'd say for this, make the target size so that when you look at it through your scope, it measures about 1 mil wide or 3 or 4 MOA. That'd be a good target size representative of what we're going to be seeing at this match. So I'm going to do that real quick here. I'm going to set my scope so that my parallax is in focus for the target that I'm going to be aiming at. Set my magnification to around 15 here. There we go. The target's in focus. That'll work. So for this practice stage, I'm going to be just using one target. Also, if it's, you know, about yay high off the ground, that's going to be like a good neutral angle for all these different positions to be aiming at, just so we're not like pointing up into the, you know, up looking at the ceiling or high up or down by the ground. So now that we have that identified, we've got our gear ready to go. this is what the drill is going to be. So just pick 4 rungs on the ladder. I'll use these 4 over here, and it's just going to be upon the engage command, build a position on the top rung and shoot at the target until you hit. We're just going to hit every time, so we're just going to be pretending the trigger's going click. And then once you impact, move down, 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 and then just back up to the top. So that'd be 7 shots, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. So that's all we're gonna do, and we're not even gonna do it fast. We're just gonna do it to get slow, good reps under our belt. All right. So Justin, you're the next shooter. Come on up. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm ready to shoot. Do you understand the course of fire? Yes? Okay, you may load and make ready. So chamber flag comes out, goes into your pocket. Magazine goes in, but the bolt stays back. And the safety is on. All right, so I got the gun in my hand in the loaded configuration. I got my game changer in my other hand. Is the shooter ready? Yes. They'll say stand by, and then you'll hear beep. Bag goes on the prop, gun goes on the bag. Find the target, then close the bolt. Now take the gun off safe. Fire. Impact. Now before I move, finger comes off, and then I go back onto safe, and I say safe, and I move down. Same thing. Find target. Now take the gun off safe. Pull the trigger. Boom. Impact. Safe. There it is. Boom. Impact. Safe. There's the target. Boom. Impact. Safe. There's the target. Off safe. Boom. Impact. Safe. There's the target. Boom. Impact. Safe. Last one. Find the target. There it is. Boom. Impact. Safe. And they'll stop the clock. So now they'll say, if finished shooting, unload and show clear. So the magazine comes out first. Open the bolt and lock it to the rear. Around just hit the ground. And then the chamber flag goes back in. There, now the gun's safe. So yeah, just run through that a couple times until you feel like you really have it. Because when you're on the clock, a lot of your like mental wherewithal, your ability to juggle tasks is gonna like go out the window. So if you have this basic stuff committed to memory, to subconscious memory, then your body will be able to just run this while you can think about other things like the problem downrange with, you know, where the bullets are going, and your ability to solve problems on the clock. So for your second drill, it's going to be very similar to the first one, but this time we're going to have 2 targets downrange, and this is to teach you how we're going to be running the match. When you're doing a target transition, meaning you're shooting at one target and then you're simply just moving your gun over to point at a different target, we're not going to require working the safety in order to do that. We're just requiring the safety for a position change. So in this drill, we're going to be doing some target transitions and then the same position transitions like we were doing in the first drill. So for this one, just go down to your wall or wherever you have your target you're aiming at, and just put another target right next to it. It can be, you know, very close to it, requiring a little bit of a position or of a target change, target transition. We have to move the gun a little bit, but not so much that you have to like rebuild a completely new position. All right, so I've already done that. And we're just gonna be using the same 4 rungs on the ladder. So I'm just gonna start top and then go down. So it's going to be start at the top rung, left target, right target, next rung down, left target, right target. But we're going to be putting the gun on safe to do a position change when you go down, just like we did in the first drill. Another thing that I forgot to mention on the first drill about the muzzle angle rule that we're going to have. Think of it as like a 90-degree angle where your barrel cannot be pointed outside of that 90-degree span, and we're going to actually have flags to mark that. So while you're at home doing these drills, just practice, like if you're using a ladder and you're going in and out of the ladder, just practice coming straight back, down, and straight in, right? Versus going like this, or that, or this. Just so you know, the 90-degree rule, we're not calling it a 90, we're calling it I think it's called like a muzzle, I'd have to look it up. It's like the muzzle direction rule or something. It's the stakes that we're gonna have for each firing position that define how far you can point your muzzle. And again, this is just to make sure that you're not gonna be pointing your muzzle at people that are sharing the same firing line as you. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so the way that it works is the angles on the left and right are defined by the stakes. So you can, as long as you're within that angle, you're good to go. And you can also go up to the point of straight up. But if you point your muzzle back, you're also breaking that rule. And the reason is because there's people behind you. A lot of times you might have a range officer that's standing right behind you, and if you're on the ground and you're pointing your muzzle like that, like you could be literally pointing it at the guy standing right behind you. So, and again, this is the same with the run and gun sports like USPSA and 3-gun. They have the 180 rule, so they have the full span, but they also can't point the gun like that. That's breaking the 180 in those sports. So you can come up to here, go forward, down, 45 left, 45 right, 45 left. Anywhere in there is where you can be. So when you're doing these drills, just try to keep your muzzle, the best practice is just try to keep your muzzle pointed at the targets the entire time, right? A little bit of movement is fine, but it's just good habit forming to just keep your gun pointed down range, right? All the way out, back in, and so on. All right, so I'm gonna try to do that, try to demonstrate it without getting DQ'd. All right, Justin, you're the next shooter. Do you understand the course of fire? Yes, I do. You may load and make ready. Chamber flag out. Magazine in. Bolt stays to the rear. Safety is still on. So if I'm standing here with my gun, be careful. Don't go up past this point, right? I mean, heck, in this sport, when every little fraction of a second matters, I'm literally starting this stage like this, right? As close as I can. As long as they don't define like you have to be starting back here in a box or something. I mean, if they don't define it, I'm gonna be just like this. Like you can't touch the prop, right? So I'm gonna be ready to go. Gun pointing towards the target. All right, is the shooter ready? Yes. Stand by. Wait for the beep. Beep. Mag goes on, gun goes on. Find the left target, there it is. Now the bolt gets closed, and then the gun goes on fire. Bam, impact. Find the other target, there it is. Bam, impact. Now my finger comes off and I go on to safe. I say safe. Keep the muzzle pointed down range. Same thing. There's the first target, off safe. Boom, impact. Next target. Boom, impact. Safe. There's the first target, on fire. Boom, impact. Boom, impact. Safe. And there's a target. Off, safe. Boom, impact. Boom, impact. And then the gun's back on safe. And I'm done shooting the stage. The timer they have in their hand is just capturing shots. So the timer has captured your last shot. And they'll say, if you're finished shooting, I don't even think they'll say, I should know what they're gonna say, right? They're not gonna say if you're finished shooting. They're gonna know that you're finished because you've impacted all the targets. So they're gonna say unload and show clear. So again, the order is magazine out, and then lock the bolt to the rear. I just ditched around onto the ground. I can go pick that up later. And chamber flag in. There we go. The line is safe. So run that one, right? You're just teaching yourself that you don't have to go on safe for a target transition, but you do have to go on safe for a position change. All right, let's do one more drill. And then just to recap, so far we've done a drill that teaches you how to work the safety on a position change. The second drill taught you that you don't need to do the safety for a target change, but you do need to do it for a position change. And then this will be the third drill. This is going to teach you about muzzle control when you're moving left or right on the firing line. If you had a little bit wider of a firing line where you have multiple shooting positions and you're moving down the line, this is to teach you the muzzle control when you're walking to the side. Keep the gun pointed downrange. And then a couple of other things. I'm sure you've already noticed when we did the first and second drill, I showed you how when you start your stage, you find the target and then you close the bolt. That's for that no skyloading rule that we talked about in the rules section. So I'm sure you noticed that, but that is how you are expected to close the bolt. It is on target. And a little bit more about that. The reason for that, just in case the gun ends up going off when the bolt is slamming shut, it's probably a rare instance, but it can happen. That's the highest risk time that the gun might accidentally go off is when the bolt is slamming shut. So if we wait until you're on target before we close the bolt on the first round, then when you fire that first shot, your gun automatically cycles to the rear and slams shut again while you're still pointing at the target, right? And then you go on to safe, you shoot at the next target. Every time the gun slams forward, it's pointing at a target. So if the gun ever does do like a malfunction where it double taps or triple taps, accidentally, or anything like that happens, you're doing that at a target as opposed to pointed up into the air where the round could, potentially leave the range and hit something we don't want to hit. So that's about the sky loading. So in this drill, we're just going to do one target, so you can just use your original target, the one that's on the left. Just set up two shooting positions that are 6, 7, 8 feet apart. You could use chairs, tables, sawhorses, use your ladder for one of them. If you got a tripod, that's what I'm going to use. And all we're going to do is we're just going to basically start out on the left position. We're going to build the position, shoot at the target. When we impact, we're going to go to safe. We're going to keep the gun pointed at the target. We're going to move to the right position. Same thing, build a position, shoot at the target, go back to safe, walk back there safely. And we'll just do that about 5 times. Just for this sake. I mean, you can run the drill as much as you want until you feel like you really understand it. So for a righty, just a little bit more about this. A righty tends to be positioned on the left side of the gun. So when you're walking this way, it's pretty natural to keep it pointed down range. The problem is when you go this way, that's when you got to keep the gun pointed down range. It's not as natural of a hold. Okay, let's do that. So what we're going to do, just to recap, on the beep, we're going to build the position here. We're going to shoot for 1 impact. And we're going to go over here for 1 impact. There. there, and then back over there for the third impact on the left side for a total of 5. All right. Does the shooter understand the course of fire? Yes. You may load and make ready. Chamber flag comes out. Magazine goes in. Bolt stays to the rear. Gun is still on safe. Let's add this to this drill. All right. So my gun right now is configured hot, right? This is a hot gun. Why is it hot? Well, there's 2 reasons. For one, it's got a magazine in. That would constitute a hot gun on its own. But the second reason is because the chamber flag is out. So if either of those 2 is the case, then your gun is hot. You are no longer under the cold gun rules. And when the gun is hot, that is when the muzzle direction rule comes into play. So because now my gun is configured like this, I must keep the muzzle pointed within the stake on the right, the stake on the left, and then the vertical line, that imaginary line spanning above us, above the gun, right? If the gun is over here, right here, you know, if the right stake is over there, then I cannot go past that stake over there. If my gun is right here, now there's a little bit wider of an angle allowance, but it's still that stake, right? Same thing over here. Now there's a little bit less of an angle allowance because we're using the stake. So yeah, as soon as they say load and make ready, and you load, you take your chamber flag out, you put your magazine in, now is when I cannot point this gun past the vertical, right? All right. Let's just start standing for this drill. So just start standing about 1 step back from the first shooting position. We'll just say that they told you that is where you have to start. That's where everybody's starting. All right. Is the shooter ready? Yes. Stand by. Beep. There's the target. Now I'm going to close the bolt. Take the gun off safe. And bam, impact. Safe. Keep it pointed down range. There's the target, off safe. Boom, impact. Safe. Keep it pointed down range. There's the target. Boom, impact. Safe. Look at that. I can walk and point the gun down range at the same time. Feels pretty good. There it is. Boom, impact. Safe. Boom. Safe. Unload and show clear. Magazine. Lock the bolt to the rear. And chamber flag. Now the gun is cold because it has a flag and no magazine. I can point this thing wherever I want. And I'm done. I just cleaned the stage. I'm really happy. I didn't get DQ'd. And if you practice this stuff, that'll be you too. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the match.